Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode, as always, is Ray Kuhn. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. Happy to be back. Ready to... I don't know that I'm going to throw my glove into the stands, though, but I am happy to be back.
You're looking a little tan.
A little bit. Spent some time sailing the high seas, and certainly enjoyed the pools and the beaches and the drink package. So it was a good week.
Nice.
Getting back to reality a little bit.
Now, reality kind of sucks, especially when you're a Mets fan and you're clearly the worst team in Major League Baseball.
Worst team, worst teammate. I think there's a little bit of debate there between the two. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the particulars of that. I think there was something possibly lost in translation, although they did give them the opportunity to clarify. But I mean, either way, it's not a good look.
Yeah, no, not a good look at all. So funny, and of course, it's on the Mets.
Of course, always.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking a little bit of news, as usual. No good news, just bad news. And then we're going to talk kind of some early FAAB prep for people who are getting ready to do FAAB this weekend. Not an awful week for FAAB, but not a great week either. Necessarily no like major call-ups or anything like that to talk about, but we'll be talking about your Mets here in a little bit. But first, let's start with Alek Manoah leaving with elbow discomfort. It sounds like he's going to go on to the IL. Are you dropping Alek Manoah if you had picked him up?
I think we have to see the results of the MRI. I mean, anytime I hear MRI and pitching elbow, I have a hard time believing it's going to be good news. But I think, we should know by Sunday. For most leagues, I think if we could hold him for a day or two leading up to the weekend until we get the results, do that. But most likely, he's probably going to go back to the wire, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think depending on the results, hopefully we'll have information by the time we do FAAB this weekend. But I think he's probably going to be a drop. If he's in the IL, I don't think Alek Manoah is good enough to be stashing, especially with the amount of injuries that most teams have right now. Lars Nootbaar has an oblique injury. These typically take 4 to 6 weeks to return from. They have not yet announced the severity. He left the game last night holding, I believe it was left oblique. Would you, if let's say he does go to the IL, it's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, are you holding on to Lars Nootbaar?
I don't think you can at this point because 4 to 6 weeks. You have 4 months left in the season. 4 to 6 weeks. If you're going to be conservative and say 6, it's almost half the season at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously 6 weeks compared to 16, but a little bit of a delay, a few extra games. You're getting to that point where 4 to 6 weeks is a big deal. So, and I don't know that he's necessarily good enough to say, oh yeah, when he comes back, he's going to be a difference maker. So I need to keep him.
No, I think he's a pretty easy cut for the most part. If he does end up having an oblique strain, it's going to cost him a month to a month and a half. I just think it's, unfortunately, he's just never developed into quite the player we thought he might develop into. And so at this point, you're talking about a guy who he's 164 plate appearances, 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 234. That's fine, but it's not like what you thought you were going to get from a guy like Lars Nootbaar. Tylor Megill going back to the with a knee injury. If you could grant health to any player in Major League Baseball, why would it be Tylor Megill?
I thought wrong that he was going to avoid the IL this week. But, at least, thankfully I can get him out of a midweek lineup or two. But, if you look at his stats for this year, his April, he hit 320 and had 9 homers. And then May, he's hitting 151 with 2 homers. So, all right, you go one extreme to the next. But maybe the strangest thing for me is he has 11 homers and 17 RBIs. So unless he's hitting the ball out of the park, he's not driving anybody in. Obviously, the barrel rate is there, the ISO is there, all that good stuff. Maybe the knee's been bothering him for a little while, and that's why the May numbers were so bad. I think maybe you give him a week. But other than that, I don't think – I mean, again, it's – the guy can't stay healthy. The guy, I think, is always going to be sort of leaving something on the table as far as his potential and the barrel rate and the power and all that stuff goes. And it's frustrating, quite frankly, but I think at this point Tylor O'Neill is what he is, and you have to grab the streaks when they come.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, all the underlying skills that we loved last year, even though he was missing time in the beginning of this year, have kind of faded. He's got a 75% zone contact, which is 10% below league average. I just think, and then you add on the injuries. There's always something going on physically with Tylor O'Neill. I've been getting offers like nonstop for him in a dynasty league, and I kept like rejecting him, and now I wish I had taken one of them. So, is what it is. Throw him on your IL and you hold him as so long as you can, but I also don't mind dropping him at this point either if he's going to miss extended period of time. Back to your Mets. Edwin Diaz goes to the IL with a shoulder injury. This is obviously concerning, but also just extremely frustrating because Diaz looked great to start the year, and then he started to falter. He kind of lost the job, but he seemed to be getting the job back, and now he goes to the IL. Obviously, you're holding on to Edwin Diaz, but let's let this transition into our FAAB discussion for the week. Who's the guy that you're picking up to replace him? Reed Garrett was amazing at one point, and he's been more shaky as of late. Jake Diekman's on the roster. Adam Ottavino seems like he would be the logical guy to be next up, but he has been shaky as well. Is there a Mets guy that you would be wanting to invest in?
Ottavino, probably. I mean, the thing with Diaz is right now we don't necessarily know how long he's going to be out for. When I initially saw the news, my first thought was, okay, I guess the Mets brought Billy Epler back into the fold, and maybe, they called up Diaz and they said pick a body part that hurts a little bit and get your head right for 2 weeks. Because the thing is, I mean, I think a lot of this, initially, to your point, he was doing really well. Then he started to struggle. But at first it was like, okay, he missed all last year. He's still working his way back. If you look at the stats in the second day when he pitched back-to-back were decidedly worse than any other time. So, okay, you chalk it up to that. But then it seemed like the struggles kind of just kept on coming, and he couldn't get out of his own way. It looked like he might have been getting the job back because almost by default. Then struggled again. Now he goes on the IL. I think the first thing is, do we really know if this is going to be a 2 to 3 week thing or if this is going to be longer? I think when he comes back, he's going to be the closer. So you kind of have to hold him. And out of those three guys you named, I'd say Ottavino is going to be the one I'd target. But again, even Ottavino, he didn't look great yesterday. And before yesterday, he had a 6.75 ERA in his last 10 games. Overall, he has a 3.86 ERA and a 2.94 xERA. So overall, he's still a solid pitcher this year, but he's another guy that's in a complete rut. And then it's like, okay, he's a little bit older. You have to wonder, the Mets don't exactly have bullpen depth. Now with Jorge Lopez gone, they lost another arm. Drew Smith is still on the IL. Were these guys kind of getting overworked? But Ottavino at least will strike batters out. 51% ground ball rate. He saved 12 games last year. So I think if anyone out of the three, he'll get the majority of the saves. Garrett kind of, like you said, came back to earth a little bit. He's probably more of a multi-inning guy. Diekman, maybe he'll get a save or two based on matchups if there's going to be a bunch of lefties, but Ottavino would be the target.
Yeah, I think Ottavino is the guy, especially with the Mets being 22 and 33 right now. Like, they're probably looking to build up Ottavino. I would assume that at least for the next month or so, Ottavino would be the guy. But to me, like, I think this is probably going to be a committee, and there's probably going to be some matches played. So, like, it's not even like only Ottavino. It's going to be Ottavino and Diekman, Ottavino and Garrett. But if I had to guess who gets the majority of the saves until Edwin Diaz is back, it's probably Ottavino. So, Next down the list is Nick Gonzales, who's been playing pretty well. 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases in 73 plate appearances, hitting .313. Any interest in Nick Gonzales?
I do have interest. I think he's an interesting guy. If you go back a few years ago, he was the top prospect. He was a high draft pick also. Good college career, but I think part of it is a discussion we had a few weeks ago where there's a difference between a baseball top prospect and a fantasy baseball top prospect. And the thing with Gonzales is he doesn't offer much power, doesn't offer much speed. Last year, though, he did hit 14 homers in 99 games at AAA, and then he's up to 7 home runs this season between AAA and the majors. He's hitting .313 after being promoted with a .234 ISO. So maybe he's discovering a little something on the power. But again, if he's going to hit close to 300, and we know he has solid bat-to-ball skills and maybe the power is developing to at least being marginal, he has to be on your radar as a middle infield option at the least.
Yeah, I just don't know like how much upside there is in Nick Gonzales. And to me, it's like if he's going to be playing every day, it makes some sense kind of as a compiler, but he has no standout tool in fantasy, which for me, like I'm always looking for a guy with a standout tool. I guess the hit tool could technically be a little bit of a standout tool, but he's not a guy who's ever graded as having a very good hit tool. He's hitting the ball well right now, 91% zone contact, putting the ball in play quite a bit. At the same time, he's also running like a 386 BABIP, which you don't expect to be something he's going to be able to do for a long period of time. And my guess, as I'm checking, XBA is 287. You could live with that, especially in today's game. If his batting average is 280, that has some value. So to me, it's going to be a matter of can he keep the playing time full time. So far, he is. He's playing every day at second base versus righties and lefties. They faced 4 lefties out of their last 6 games. So, and 2 righties. So he's playing every day. Yeah, deeper leagues makes sense. I think 10s and 12s, though, I just don't think he's quite on the radar. I just don't think he has enough pop or enough speed.
Those leagues he's going to leave you deficient elsewhere.
Yeah. What about a fun name to try to pronounce? What about Spencer Schwellenbach? I think I got that one. He's a pitching prospect for the Braves. Made his debut, pitched up decently. Any interest in Schwellenbach?
Yeah, I have interest there, and I think not to plug my own work too much. Exclusive of seeing the rundown for this, the 3 pitchers we're going to talk about now in a row were the 3 starting pitchers I had in my waiver wire article that went up this morning at Fantrax. So we start with Schwellenbach. He was a borderline top 100 guy. The Braves, again, it seems like they just continuously just throw out these guys, and it's one after another. You had Smith Shore came up, pitched great, got hurt. Owen Murphy looks like he's going to need surgery, but you know what? Now we got this other guy who's a borderline top 100 prospect. So we'll just bring him up. He threw 4 scoreless and then gave the 3-run homer in the 5th yesterday. Struck out 5. Overall looked good. He had a 180 ERA in 45 innings in the minors. Struck out more than about an inning, only walked 10. So to that point, there wasn't much more he could have done at in the minor league level. I don't know that he's truly going to be a dominant guy. I don't know that he's going to be a league winner. I think he'll stick in the rotation as long as he continues to do well. So I'm going to look to add him this weekend. I don't know that I'm going to look to go into the triple digits.
No, I definitely wouldn't go into the triple digits. We're talking about a guy who not only jumped from Double-A, he only had 13 innings in Double-A. Like he pitched most of the year in High A, and completely skipped Triple-A. Now he's got some strikeout stuff, and I think he's got three usable pitches with decent command. The command is gonna be a big issue, though. He's a guy that does fill up the zone quite a bit, so I'm not super worried about walks, but if he cannot command things, that will be a problem for him. The problem is, I don't know like how many innings they're going to really let him throw. He only threw 64, 65 innings last year in the minor leagues. He's already getting close to that. Let's see, he's got 45, 50 innings already. And he's just not like an overpowering guy, generally speaking. So I think this is a pretty short leash. He is pitching on a good team. He has shown the ability, at least in the minor leagues, to go deep into ball games. Last 2 starts in the minors were 6 and 7 innings apiece, which is good. So being on Atlanta, which is a really good team, even without Acuna, and being able to go deep in games means you've got pretty decent win potential. So I think this is a guy that I'd be looking to kind of put on my roster in 12s and 15s and kind of, play matchups and kind of see how things go. But like I said, this is not a triple digit guy. This is a guy you try to get for $30-$40 and hope that he pans out, because I honestly don't know if he's going to throw more than like another 60 innings this year. So to me, like, I don't want to overinvest in a guy like that. What about Ben Brown coming off of a massive outing, 7-inning outing? He's kind of been in the rotation, then out of the rotation, in the rotation, out of the rotation. I think at this point they just leave him in the rotation. Are you interested in Ben Brown?
I am. And to your point, I think he is going to end up staying in the rotation. It's hard to ignore what he's done to this point. Guy throws 97, has a few quality pitches, somewhat limits the walks, 2.72 ERA between bullpen and rotation. I think especially after Tuesday's start, there's no way he doesn't stay in the rotation. So that being said, he might be that triple-digit guy where he sticks in the rotation for the rest of the year. We could be looking at something here. I don't know that I would go as far to say true league winner, but I think he could be a very solid rotation piece for somebody the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ben Brown a lot. To me, he's been one of the more impressive arms in that Cubs rotation this year, and I was actually a little surprised when they kept kind of like throwing him into the bullpen and then bringing him back. It's like why are you guys starting guys like Jamison Taillon and Kyle Hendricks when you have an arm this electric in the kind of in your system? I think he's put himself in a place where they have to, if they want to be competitive, they want to win this division, and I think they do. They need a guy like Ben Brown in this rotation. They need to stop messing around with some of these older vets that clearly are unreliable and way past their prime. So I'm a big fan of Ben Brown. If he's available in any leagues, I'm going to go hard after him. Probably not a $100 bid. I don't think any of the guys you're talking about today, except for maybe one, is a $100 guy, and that one guy probably isn't available in a ton of leagues anyways. What about Matt Waldron, who has been pitching really, really well as of late? He's a knuckleballer, which is always fun, but always dangerous to roster a knuckleballer. I streamed him in a couple leagues this week. Felt really good to get 6 shutout innings. It was against the Marlins, so you don't want to like overinflate that. But are you interested in Matt Waldron at all?
He's a very interesting guy because I don't know that he's a true knuckleballer in the sense that he only throws it 38% of the time, and it's 78 mile per hour average velo on it. It's a little harder than some of the other ones we've seen. He does average 91 on the fastball, so he doesn't truly rely on the knuckleball, and it's more of an off-speed pitch. And I think due to the rarity of it gives hitters a little bit of a different look. I mean, obviously, there's more variability in it as well. So he's 2 starts this week also. So that's the other thing against the Angels and the Diamondbacks. So regardless of the recent success, I think he'd probably be on radar in deeper leagues. But 25 strikeouts, 4 walks in his last 3. That definitely gets your attention.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he's not a guy that you'd think would get a lot of strikeouts, but I do think that knuckleball helps kind of throw people off a little bit. I mean, he's got like a sub 10% swinging strike rate, but he's also allowing 81% zone contact right now, which is fantastic for a guy like him. With knuckleballers, guys like that, you're always going to be worrying about Like, it's just a hard pitch to control and command. But like you said, he's not a guy like an Uncle Ted saying like Waldron just throw it 70% like Dickey. Like, I mean, we saw what happened with, like, Dickey was great until he wasn't, and then he wasn't any good at all. Like, it's just such a difficult pitch to consistently throw that I wouldn't advise him to be throwing it 70% of the time. But he's fun. He pitches in a good park, which definitely helps. To me, he's more of a team streamer. He's a guy you're kind of looking for matchups. Like I said, 2-start week, like you throw him in there and you kind of just hope neither one of those starts is a blow up. But I think, I think the Padres are still a pretty decent team. He's throwing well. I think he's a guy you kind of use for now and kind of see, but you definitely want to play it start to start with him. He's not a guy that you're gonna put in any lineup and just set and forget. All right, so the guy that I was kind of mentioning in terms of he's probably not available in all of your leagues, but maybe some 10s and 12s if people dropped him after he broke his thumb. We just talked about him like 2 weeks ago. Last time you and I were together, we talked about TJ Friedl. He'd just come back from an injury and then broke, I think it was his thumb, by getting hit with this. He's already back. I was shocked. Like, all of a sudden, like, I'm looking at one of my lineups and it's like TJ Friedl's leading off. I'm like, what do you mean TJ Friedl's? Like, I didn't even realize he was back already. If Friedl got dropped in one of your leagues, would you be rushing and spending triple digits on him?
I think you have to, and hope lightning doesn't strike a third time. Yeah. I mean, he broke his thumb. You can kind of call that a freak injury. If you're willing to go triple digits on him when he came back the first time, there's no reason why 2 weeks later you shouldn't be willing to do the same again, because I don't think anything has really changed. Again, thumb injury, you're worried about power. But even regardless, he has speed. He has some other things that he brings to the table that he's far and away going to be better, especially batting leadoff for that team in that park, than anything you're going to find on the wire.
Yeah, I just think it's so rare to find a guy who, one, he's got a track record now after last season, right? But two, like, find a guy this point in the season that is going to lead off for a club like Cincinnati. And I know Cincinnati hasn't like lived up to like all the hype that they had coming into the season, but like it's still a really good lineup. And with TJ Friedl on top of it, it's even better. So, and I know like he hasn't been great. He's only had 29 plate appearances, but hitting 160. I think he's going to be fine. They threw him right back into the leadoff spot. They believe in him. I think he's, yes, if he's available in any leagues of mine, he's available in one. I just looked it up. He's available in TGFBI. I'll drop triple digits on him this week if I need to. So I think this is the perfect guy. You got a little bit of power, you got quite a bit of speed, and you'll be leading off in Cincinnati. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. The next guy on the list is Tylor Megill, who just went out and just shoved against the Dodgers. Now, I know it wasn't necessarily the full Dodgers team because they were doing a doubleheader, but it's still a pretty damn good Dodgers team, when it's not completely full. But Tylor Megill is one of those guys that's always a talent, has had a hard time staying healthy recently, came off the IL for that start. He's going to have a second part of a two-step later this week. Are you, as a Mets fan, are you buying in on Tylor Megill?
I am. I mean, I think last year was very up and down for him. From a result standpoint, from pretty much all over the place. If you look at his ERA, if you look at some of the stuff, some of the starts, and coming into this season, he was somebody that I was high on because he throws hard. I think there is a good pitch tool to be interested in to generate the results. And then obviously he got hurt. Again, 7 shutout against the Dodgers. Even at half strength, it's still impressive. It's still a strong team. So to me, I'm going to hang on to him based on the adjustments that he made. Just don't go looking for wins out of him because, I mean, the offense is struggling. The bullpen is a mess. But if you're looking for strikeouts and innings, considering that he was able to give 7 in his first start back, and the Mets have no choice but to push their starting pitchers as much as possible, given the situation within the bullpen. they're going to do so, and it was a good sign to see him get 7 in the first start back up. So I think he could be a very interesting dark horse kind of guy because there isn't that pedigree there or that buzz. But I'm definitely interested to see what he does as far as some of those adjustments with the off speed and the breaking stuff to play off the fastball.
Like everything is exactly what you want to see from Tylor Megill. I do not think that this is a question of talent. I think this is going to be a question of health. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a really good pitcher. And if he's available in any of my leagues, which I doubt he is, I'm going to go very, very hard on trying to get him. This not only is he relying on his full arsenal, every single one of his pitches has like a plus metric right now. So it's like he's got a full arsenal, and every single one of his pitches is not just useful but good right now. Like I don't see anything wrong with Tylor Megill. I think this is one of those guys that if I was in a trade league right now, I'd be going to whoever has Tylor Megill and be willing to play full free. Because I think he has the ability to be a top 40 pitcher rest of the way if he can stay healthy. Now, wins will be a problem. The Mets suck. I'm sorry, buddy. But ultimately, I'm going to bet on the talent and know that I'm going to get a bunch of strikeouts. His command has been exceptional. It's not giving a home run, either the majors or the minors. I really like Tylor Megill, and I've never been a Tylor Megill guy, but watching him pitch against those Dodgers was really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean the main thing for me is he seems to abandon the changeup from previous years and move it more to a split and a cutter. So I think the added velocity there, at least from the cutter perspective, split is coming in a few miles lower than the change did. I think that's making a difference because previously you only had like a 6 to 7 mile an hour separation in velo between the changeup and the fastball, which I don't think is enough. So now that he's added pitches with a little more movement and varied the velocity a little bit better, I think that's going to make the difference for him as long as, again, as he stays healthy.
What about Jose Miranda? Jose Miranda is a former top prospect that, just flopped in kind of his first go-around. But I also don't think he was given enough of a chance. He's been getting a chance in Minnesota right now. Now, Royce Lewis working his way back. This may be a short-lived experience. But are you buying in on Jose Miranda at all?
On a temporary basis, I am. Again, Lewis is going to be back next week or two. I still think that Minnesota can find at bats for Miranda if they want to. I'm just not sure. He has five homers in 40 games, sitting 279. I just don't know when I look at the profile that there's anything that makes me kind of go crazy to say, all right. He's barreled up 6 balls, 5.6% barrel rate. XBA is 237. X slug is 400 compared to 457 slug. So I don't know how much I love him other than a guy that's doing well while playing every day.
Yeah. I think the hard part for a guy like Miranda is because he I know people think of him as he's a guy with power. He doesn't have prodigious power. He's got maybe above average power, but a good contact skill. If he did have a carrying tool in fantasy, it is his ability to make contact, above 90% zone contact this year. And that's something you kind of expect from Jose Miranda's profile. The problem is, in order for that to work, he has to play every day. And once Royce Lewis comes back, now Royce Lewis won't play every day, right? I think they're going to try to protect him. I think they're going to try to give him regular days off in the same way that they tried to do that with Byron Buxton, and that still didn't keep Buxton healthy. But I think they're going to try to protect Lewis, and Lewis can play other positions as well. But Miranda is not a very good defender, so if they just say Royce Lewis, hey, you're going to go back to third full time, all of a sudden Miranda's out of a job and back down in the minors. So I think this is a short-term play while he's playing full time, and then you're going to kind of have to reassess once we have a little bit more information after Royce Lewis returns. Patrick Bailey's been playing well. He dealt with concussion. It was a really weird situation where he got the concussion. went to the IL, was feeling better. They activated him, but before he ever played again, or played a game after his activation, they put him right back on the IL. They originally said he was dealing with like flu-like symptoms, but it appeared that was actually due to the concussion issues. He's back now, playing well. Where are you at on Patrick Bailey?
I think if you have a deficiency at catcher and in 2 catcher leagues, most likely you do, he's somebody that should be on your radar because he doesn't have much power. 4 home runs, 123 plate appearances is not anything that's going to overwhelm you, but he's hitting .299 with the .312 X batting average. His defense is really good, which is going to keep him in the lineup. And to me, if you don't need to kind of squeeze out every last home run and RBI from the catcher position, and you want somebody that's going to get regular playing time and give you a good batting average, you could do a lot worse than Bailey. And quite frankly, some of these guys that don't even play every day, is it really worth the 200 batting average to maybe get 1 extra home run? When even if Bailey doesn't have the same power tools some of these guys have, if he's playing more, you could potentially end up closer to the same spot.
Yeah, Bailey is like one of the best like C2s you can find because most C2s actively hurt you. And while Bailey doesn't necessarily help you in anything other than batting average, he doesn't hurt you. And one of the things I love about Patrick Bailey is the fact that he's on the Giants. And usually I don't say this about Giants offensive player because Giants offensive players I don't particularly like because they don't have a very good offense. But he regularly hits 5th in this lineup. And I think on a lot of other teams, a lot of better teams, he'd probably be hitting 7th. But he's hitting, 5th. He's going to get a fair amount of plate appearances. They'll also DH him at times. And he provides batting average, which is a really hard thing to find at the catcher position. So if he's available in your league, obviously I know a lot of, 2 catcher leagues, he probably might not be available, but go check your wire and see if he is, because I think he's got some value moving forward. Cole Irvin. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the thing. Batting 5th, even if he doesn't have the same power tool, he's going to kind of look into RBIs if he's hitting 300.
Yeah, exactly. Cole Irvin moving back into the rotation after the Orioles suffer a couple injuries to that rotation in John Means and Dean Kremer. Now, Kremer is not supposed to be out for very long. I think John Means might actually end up being done this year, unfortunately. But it looks like Cole Irvin's going to be in this rotation at least until the trade deadline if the Orioles go and try to make a couple moves to bolster that rotation. Irvin doesn't strike guys out, but he's been given pretty good ratios. He's on the Orioles, which is a good team to pitch for. Any interest in Cole Irvin?
I think as a streamer, you have to have some. It's one of those guys that you have to kind of just close your eyes a little bit and say the matchup works and he's getting the results and look past some of the other stuff. Now, he's not going to keep up the 2.84 ERA, but even at a 4.31 xERA, he has a 45% ground ball rate. He doesn't walk guys. He's only giving up a 7% barrel rate. So it's not all bad when you're looking at him. And again, he has 5 wins in 10 games. So the Orioles are one of the better teams. Yeah, I think you have to pay attention to him, and you can't sell him short just because he doesn't strike guys out.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to help you with strikeouts. But, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to this year, and I talked to, Paul, multiple times a week, and he's always complaining about, oh, my pitching stuff's so good, but I can't get wins. Well, you need some Cole Irvin in your life, then, because Cole Irvin's going to win games in Baltimore. He's going to be like a 13-game winner probably when he barely has 13 strikeouts on the year. I mean, it's just he's a guy that he doesn't walk guys. He's not giving up home runs. I think that park really, really helps prevent things. As Uncle Ted saying in the chat, a lefty in Baltimore is always nice. I mean, I don't expect him to keep this kind of ratio up the rest of the way, but I do expect him to put up decent ratios and get wins, which is really, really valuable in fantasy. So now I think at some point the Orioles make trades, right? They've got offensive talent just sitting in the minor leagues waiting, and they have some clear needs at pitching or starting pitching. especially with the loss of Means and Kremer. I would assume that they are going to make a trade, and then maybe Cole Irvin goes back into the bullpen. But that's a problem for August. For the next couple months, Irvin's in this rotation. All right, let's finish out with another Met. It's like a Mets corner today. Metsapalooza on the podcast. Mark Vientos, he looks like he's going to play regularly at third base. There's a ton of power in this profile and not much else. Where are you at on Mark Vientos?
I think let's see what the power does. Let's see what the power plays. If he's found, because I don't know that this is necessarily the last chance for him to show that he's more than a quad A player, but it very well could be. I think he's bounced back and forth last year or two between AAA and the majors, and it seemed that when he came up to the majors, he didn't hit, went back to AAA, and he hit. So at the very least, we know he's capable of doing it. Obviously, doing it at the majors is different than doing it in AAA. But now if he's going to get an actual real-life chance to establish some consistency, so far since he's been up, he's been making noise with the barrel rate, with the hard hit rate, all that good stuff through 25 ISO. So I think this situation where you have to chase the hit tool, you're going to combine the hit tool with the playing time. He's in this very small sample size been producing to this point. So let's see what happens when he's in the lineup 5 or 6 times a week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is going to end particularly well for Mark Vientos, but I have plenty of leagues. You know, like I said, Paul's got a lot of leagues where he's dying for wins. I have a ton of leagues where I'm dying for home runs, where I'm like 3rd or 4th place in RBIs and doing fine in runs scored. But like I'm in last place in home runs for some reason. And so like in leagues like that, especially where batting average isn't a problem, like Mark Vientos makes a lot of sense for someone like him, right? Yeah. The problem is, and I know some people are like, I know you say like he's going to strike out too much, but he's striking out at 20% clip right now, and he's hitting 300. Don't buy that at all. Do not buy, like, that is going to crater. He's got a 75% zone contact, a 17% swing and strike rate right now. Those are all indicative of a 35% strikeout rate. That's coming. He's going to strike out a bunch. He's gonna have probably a 220, 230 batting average, but he can deliver power. Like, this is legitimately like a 30+ homer bat if he can stay in the lineup. And right now, it looks like the Mets are giving him an opportunity to lineup. So, sorry about that. Lost you for a second. I don't know what's going on my internet today. I apologize if there's been some happiness, and I'm hoping that I'm coming through right now. But that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Ray, why don't you remind everybody to reach on social media and plug anything you got going on?
You can find me at Ray_Kuhn_28 on social media. And I'm plugging away on the weekly waiver wire on Fantrax. You can hear me on this podcast. Going to introduce another series on Fantrax where I take a look at some StatCast metrics. And I know this is baseball, but we got some football content I have coming up on Fantrax and Dr. Roto as well.
There you go. You can reach me on social media, Justin Mason FWFB. It's my thing for all my social media platforms. And then I'm writing 3 days a week at Fantasy Pros and 5 days a week at Fangraphs. I'm on this podcast and the Sleeper and the Bus podcast. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Ray and myself, thank you for listening. Have fantastic baseball.